And welcome back to Real Talk Sports with Rico. Today we're talking about the NBA top headlines and stories. And so I wanted to start off with the injury report and starting with Lonzo Ball, who's going to be out with a wrist sprain. It looks like that the team is going to have to reevaluate him after 10 days to see if he is going to be able to return to action. He's looking at missing about 5 to 6 games. That's pretty big for the Chicago Bulls because he has certainly helped them on the offense and the defensive end, helping this team get to 2-2 thus far and be fifth in the East. So I think that that is going to be a tough loss for the Chicago Bulls. And then for Scotty Barnes and the Toronto Raptors here. So he's got an orbital fracture. He's going to be out for at least 3 weeks. You can see right now that the Toronto Raptors have been struggling. And so that is tough that you have your main player in Scotty Barnes that's going to be out. This is a player that no doubt Toronto has been building around. So a tough start for Toronto, and that is going to be a tough loss for the Chicago Bulls. As we look at the top of the Eastern Conference, some of the key takeaways here is that Boston continues to be Boston. They look just like they did a year ago, and they are really shooting the ball very well from the three-point mark. And I think that that is going to continue. This team looks like it is on a mission. And I talked a little bit about the Chicago Bulls. I think that they have done very well. They're playing a new offense. Players like Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, some of these players that have been with this team for quite some time are helping some of these younger players that this Chicago Bulls team is really having to play. And they've done a great job thus far. I think that they're still trying to figure it out, but I think that they've been a surprise team in the NBA. The pace of play that they have played with, and then also too just knocking down the three-pointers because they have tied a franchise record in hitting 25 three-pointers a couple times this season. So the Atlanta Hawks, I think that they've been a surprise as well. The first overall pick has played very well with Trae Young. They have done a great job as far as just finding ways to get wins out there. And so the Atlanta Hawks, I think, have been a surprise team in the Eastern Conference. And then just looking at, 7 through 10, I would say that the shocker in this is the New York Knicks. I think that the New York Knicks, if you were to tell me that they were going to be eighth just out of the gates in the first week of the season, yes, I get it as the first week of the season. I just wouldn't really guess that. And I think that it comes down to they're just not comfortable just yet with this trade. I think with Karl Anthony Towns, they're still trying to figure that out, still trying to figure out, how the rotations and things are going to work with these new players. And I think that New York is going to be fine as they continue to just keep playing these games. They continue to kind of figure out each other. The Knicks are going to be just fine. The 76ers, I think, have been one of the more disappointing teams in the Eastern Conference right now because, the story has come out around Joel Embiid. The team got fined. And then you have Paul George, who you went out and you brought him over in the offseason, and he's starting off hurt. And so it's not a good start for both Paul George and Joel Embiid, who it looks like he's not going to be in back-to-backs. Maybe that changes, but Tyrese Maxey has been fabulous. But without those two players, the Sixers are in trouble. When we look at the bottom half of the East, the shocker for me is the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks should absolutely be a lot better than what they are at 1-3. Defensively, they've been terrible. And it looks like they have not addressed the things that they should have addressed in the offseason, which was defense. And now we start to wonder, with this coaching change that they made last year with Doc Rivers, was that really the issue? And so Giannis talked about, look, if they don't get it done, then it's a possibility he might get traded. And if the Milwaukee Bucks don't turn things around quickly, I could see this maybe being the start, or maybe this is the year where they massively go ahead and try to rebuild this team up. And so next is looking at the Western Conference. And when we look at some of the top teams and the bottom teams here, let me start with the top in OKC. And I think that they've looked very good. I think that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has absolutely played like an MVP candidate. And I think that they are going to be a tough team to beat. I love the fact that they have got Alex Caruso over. He hasn't scored a whole bunch of points, but he has been a huge factor for them defensively. offensively, especially since they don't have Isaiah Hartenstein to play the backup five right now. So OKC looking pretty good. The Phoenix Suns looking great out the gates, 3-1. The issue with them is going to be just that they have a lot tied up into the big three. And I feel like if anybody goes down, they don't have really anybody else, I think, on the roster that can kind of step up and fill, that void if one of those players is lost. I like the fact that they did get Tyrus Jones over there. They did need a true point guard. And I like that they have Coach Bud from Milwaukee, who has won a title there. Hopefully this will help this team, especially late as they try to make a playoff push, or, at least get out of a round in the playoffs. The Lakers, I think that they've had new energy. I think that JJ Redick has coached them up very well. The key for them is, can LeBron, Anthony Davis, can they stay healthy? And then when they do sit games, can this young core step up and keep this team going? Because I think that they are going to rely on their younger players to position them and put them into a good seed for the playoffs. Next up, the Dallas Mavericks, I think that they're going to be just fine. I think that they have two of the best big men in the game. And I think that Luka's looked very good alongside of Klay Thompson. I know Klay Thompson is not the same player that he used to be early on with the Golden State Warriors, but he can still help this team. And I think that you're going to start to see his impact even more as the season goes along, especially as the playoffs roll around. The Golden State Warriors are a very deep team. Currently, right now, they are playing a 12-man rotation. And look, they're younger, but they still have the same concepts that have built this team up into a championship contender. I'm not saying that they're going to get there, but they're certainly going to be exciting. And I think that we're going to hear from some younger players that we just haven't heard from. And I think that you're going to see something different with Golden State this year. So wouldn't be surprised if they come back and they are making some noise in the West this year. The Clippers, James Harden, can he keep it going? When will Kawhi be back? That's a huge question as we move towards the middle and then the bottom of the Western Conference. Minnesota Timberwolves, I think that that's been a bit of a shocker, but I think just like the Knicks, that trade is something that it just hasn't materialized just yet. And I feel like Julius Randle will start to really find his way. And I feel like the rest of those guys will kind of start to gel together as they learn to play better with one another. And so, it's a slow start for the Minnesota Timberwolves. If they were going to be eighth in the West right now, I wouldn't have believed you, just like the Knicks are eighth in the East. And so I just think that both of those teams have to figure it out. Same with the Sacramento Kings, who have DeMar DeRozan over there, but they have looked good in their 2 wins. The Memphis Grizzlies already facing injuries with Ja Morant. He missed the game. The Chicago Bulls won against them. And so that's not a good sign that Ja Morant has had to miss a game. And then also, too, you had some injuries going into this thing with Jaren Jackson Jr. So I think that the injuries are going to be major, I think, for the Memphis Grizzlies moving forward this season. The Pelicans, it's been a mess. Brandon Ingram's in a contract year this year, and there's talk that he could be traded. You had Zion. He started off with an illness, but he's back now. He looked pretty good there. And then they do not have DeJounte Murray, who is out with a broken hand. They just acquired him via trade, so not a good start for the Pelicans. Could be a mess this year. The Denver Nuggets, man, they have looked very bad. They struggled with the Brooklyn Nets, and I think the issue for them is going to be the bench. And I'm just not sure that Russell Westbrook is going to give them enough of an impact off that bench. They were 30th last year. They still need to make some moves to address that bench. The Spurs, the Trailblazers, the Spurs and the Trailblazers, young teams still trying to figure it out. And the Jazz, they're right there with them. I think that Danny Ainge has a plan for them. Just been a tough start for them. But those 3 teams are teams that are just looking for, player development. They're looking to get better, just kind of evaluate as they continue to kind of rebuild their roster. So with that being said, that is today's show. Just talking about the NBA top headlines and stories. We'll be talking a little bit more about the NBA on the next one. This is Rico. This is Real Talk Sports. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.